Good evening and welcome to Face to Face. For the Newsfirst team, I'm your host Niresh Eliathambi. Now, we've changed our president, we've changed our prime minister and our cabinet, we've changed our parliament. But what more should we do? As citizens, do we just sit back and say, let the government, the new government, take care of everything? Or do we get more involved to both support the government, but also to ensure that proper governance is implemented as we need in this country? And to discuss this, we have with us this evening Mrs. Ajantha Perera, Dr. Mrs. Ajantha Perera, well known for her environmental activism, once a presidential candidate and a frequent visitor to the Newsfirst studios. Welcome, Dr. Ajantha.
Thank you.
So, Dr. Ajantha, how is the country looking right now in terms of governance? Do you see hope? Do you see that too many things are continuing as before, business as usual? How should society change?
I think it's just the beginning. Right now, like you said, the new parliament. Okay, so we have can't say a new prime minister, but she has been there for a while, and then the president, of course. I like to start with a quote that the president himself made at the parliamentary first session. He said, "Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that." Then he said, "Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that." Well, when I keep on thinking about that, what he said, if he really believes in that, I think it's just a good chance, because basically we need to understand Sri Lanka has been covered by darkness for a while. We have gone bankrupt. We have gone down the depths of the seas, and so the darkness has overtaken us. And for the president to say that we need to have light we need light in order to not only to see what is inside there in the darkness, but also to correct it. If we can see it in that sense, I'm very happy about that. Then he talks about hatred. There's a lot of hatred in the country, which is very true right now. We hate those who were there before us. And there is a tendency for people to say, okay, revenge is the answer to everything. He talks about love being the opposite of the hatred, or to overcome hatred you need love. And I think that's a good two things that he's talking about, light and love. These are very, very important things. But one thing that I am a little bit concerned about is, though the president may have this vision within himself, we have 225 new faces inside the parliament.
Most of them are new.
We have, most of them are really new. And then, we need to understand, it will take them some time to understand that becoming a parliamentarian means that you have to really forget about yourself and look after the people of the country. You're not coming to parliament to have fun. You're coming to parliament because you want to bring about a change. And what's the change that they're going to bring about? I mean, basically there is a constitution. Do they all know the constitution? Then the second question that I have is, do they know how to formulate a policy? Do they know how to formulate an action plan? Do they know how to develop legislation out of it? Are they competent with that? So the president has this vision of light and love. how is he going to transfer that what is within himself or what he sees as good to the new people? How is he going to get the job done? I mean, I like what PM Harini has said. She has said, we must prioritize the hope and trust placed in us by the citizens. It's good that she's talking about that understanding that people have put on a tremendous amount of power for them. They've given beyond what they were expecting. That means people are expecting results out of it. So, right now, the question is that is the team ready? Does the team understand the task before them? Does the team understand the importance of togetherness? Do they understand that coming to the parliament is to achieve something together rather than separately? Because we have a country which is sinking. We haven't come out of this despair yet. So the biggest question that I basically have, and my biggest question mark right now is, do they understand the importance of the parliament right now for the future of this nation?
But apart from parliament itself, Dr. Ajantha, now we presume that parliament will be better behaved and that it will actually get down to the work that is expected of parliament, which is to amend existing laws and to pass new laws, progressive ones, and to throw out the regressive laws, which there are many. So we hope that the parliament will get down to all that. Previous parliaments, multiple parliaments, seem to be more like zoos, or actually even zoos are much better behaved. I mean, from what we have seen
in
our parliament. Yes, so there's a lot of hope about this parliament, of course. But what about how do we ensure good governance? How do we get involved as citizens? Because in this country, people go to the ballot box every 5 years and they cast their vote, and then they absolve themselves of all responsibility. So if the country does well, yes, I voted for that person. Even if you haven't voted, you say, yes, my government. But everything that goes wrong is the fault of the government in general. So this doesn't work. I mean, in mature democracies, we need the citizens to be more involved. What is the process to do this? Because the processes in the past have failed. We had things called public day, where once every week your mayor or your Pradesh Sabha chairman or a minister is supposed to meet the public. But that never works, because when you go on that day, you are invariably told, oh, the minister was summoned by the president. So that's usually not true. The minister was probably, in bed at home. But what can the citizens do? So what are the methods that can be used to for the citizens to participate some more?
I think the key word is transparency. It's very important that people and the government understands there should be transparency all around, because transparency basically means that people have the right to know what the government is doing. People are elected, the governments are elected by the people to do a certain job, and so the government should understand that they are not supposed to get offended when people criticize them. The most important thing, I think, is for the government to welcome critics, and then the people also to be interested and actually criticize. Now, one of the most important thing is the digitalization. That means that every data regarding the development work of this country should be available to the public. You see, unfortunately in Sri Lanka, most of the things have been done in the dark. People are hardly aware of what is happening. Now we talk about development, we talk about transactions, we talk about agreements, but many of the time people do not even know what they have agreed upon. People hardly know of coalitions. People don't know what's going on. People need to know. Transparency is very, very important. And the second key thing is, I think, is data should be available to the public. It should be so that, there can't be any corruption. Because Sri Lanka has died the death because of corruption. We need to understand our people are bad people. Sorry to say this, but those who have been in the parliament for a long time have allowed the country to die because of corruption. And we can't expect foreigners to help us with that. The resolving corruption has to happen from within ourselves. So the transparency becomes very, very important. And also I think it's very important for the government to invite pressure groups. I mean, I know we are people who are hated by every side. I've been in the Aragalaya, been on the streets, we are like hated. I mean, even during the election, I saw that. How much people hate you, they say things about you. They say, oh my goodness, these people, they are only trying to find fault with this one, that one. No, we are not trying to do that. We need transparency. We need to know what's going on. People need to make educated decisions. You can't make an educated decision unless you know the facts. You can't be groping in the dark. This is too late for Sri Lanka to do that. So what I hope for the President and the Prime Minister right now is that they need to ensure that the rest of their team understands that criticism is welcome.
Absolutely.
You can't say, don't criticize us. We are still a very young government. I keep hearing this and I get sick and tired of it. It's been said by people who've been in the parliament for a long time and they still say we are still a young government. Young in what? So basically you need to be welcoming criticism. If you want to develop as a person, you need criticisms. If you want to develop as a country, you need criticism. So that should be welcomed. And
you're quite right about, we make this excuse that we're a small country, we're a young government, things like that. But in actual fact, we're not really a small country. We've got a population of 22 million, which is we're a median country really. And even when you look at the land mass size, we are, of course, we're not among the top 20 or top 30, but we are certainly much larger than many of the smaller countries, the island nations and even some of the other nations. So we tend to sort of make these excuses. And also about democracy, we've had universal adult franchise since I think 1931, long before we had independence. So we should have perfected the art of democracy by now. Countries like Singapore got their democratic rights and also their independence much later than we did. But we seem to be stuck and we seem to have gone backwards. Exactly. So we need to stop making these excuses, don't you think?
Yeah, because I believe the most important thing is that people should be aware of what's going on. There's nothing to hide. The governments are elected by the people for the people. So if the government is elected by the people for the people, then the people are the very first ones should know what's going on. It's very, very important. I think a healthy government will always make sure that the people are aware of what they are doing. So I personally believe the present president and the prime minister must make sure there is transparency in every aspect, that people have the right to digitalization. Let the data be available. We can't be going backwards. We have now the new technology where we can know of what is happening all the time. What's happening in the world, what should be happening in Sri Lanka. That's very, very important. And I think the most important thing is the honesty. The government must be honest in their dealings. You cannot say one thing and do another thing. Because if people's participation is to happen, the government must be very honest. Because without the government being honest, people cannot participate. This is where the protests come. This is where the misunderstandings come. Because when the government does not want to be transparent, when the government does not want to be open to whatever is happening, then that means the government is trying to hide something. And this is very, very important. Now, for example, you can't be also going back and forth. For example, with the IMF, right? Everybody knew that you cannot right now touch IMF. Whatever the dealings that have happened, whatever the decisions that have been taken by the IMF in agreement with the Sri Lankan government, you cannot reverse it now because it's too fragile. Everybody knows that. But I remember during the election time, people were saying, no, we will reverse it, we will amend it, we will do this, we will do that. But now the government says, no, we will not go back. We will stand by whatever the agreements that are. So we need to be very mature in our dealings. We need to understand that we are responsible. When a government is there, the government is responsible for the 22 million people, their future and their children's future. You can't play with emotions. Emotions are good for, we say people in movies, but emotions can't get entangled in governance. And another thing I remember, the wind power project in the north. I mean, how many people were against it? And all of a sudden now we see it's going to go ahead.
This is the Manna project you're talking about.
So you can't always be going this way and going that way. Be transparent, be honest, and be truthful in your words. Don't ever say anything in your life that you have to regret. Think before you say something. And this is very important for the parliament. And I know there are a lot of doctorates, there are a lot of professors there, and I understand the professors, I understand the doctorates, because we come from the same areas. And don't say something today and change it tomorrow. And don't try to argue on that. Because the moment you say two things, one day you're saying this is good, the next day you're saying this is good, then people get confused and nobody expects a professor or a doctor to do that. So be honest in your thinking, be honest in your saying, and be honest in your decision making. Because right now the country needs money. One thing we lack is money. So we need to bring investors. We need many, many investors to come into Sri Lanka to invest. To do that, the government must be stable. At every cost, the government must be stable. And I think the President Anura Kumara has a big task in this. Don't let your government sway. If your government sway, then you are swaying the whole country and you are putting the whole country in danger. So don't let anyone sway. This is be very straightforward in your dealings.
Interesting thoughts indeed, Dr. Ajantha. We need to take a short commercial break. We are in conversation with Dr. Ajantha Perera. Don't go away, we'll be right back.
Step away from the conventional art of storytelling. Get ready for the Newsfirst Breakfast Rundown with me, Zulfikar Farzan.
ජාතික මෙහෙවරින් අපි කතා බහ කරන්නේ පුරුෂ පාර්ශවයට කාන්තා පාර්ශවයට වෙනසක් නැතුව ආයුර්වේදයට අනුව ලස්සන වෙන්නේ කොහොමද කියලා.
හොඳම මොයිස්චරයිස් එක තමයි කොමඩු.
යම්කිසි වයස් මට්ටම් වලට පැමිණෙනකොට ඇතිවෙන බෝන් නොවන රෝග තත්ත්වයන් තුලදී කොයි ආකාරයෙන්ද ඇස ආරක්ෂා කරගන්නේ?
බහුලවම අන්ධභාවයට පත්වන රෝගී තත්ත්ව ගත්තොත් ඇත්තටම ලෝකයේ ලංකාවේ දෙකම නම්බර් 1 ඇත්තටම තියෙන සුද ඇහි සුද.
නිරාමිෂ සිතුවිලි වලින් තමයි පිබිදෙන්නේ. ඒනට ප්‍රශ්නේ ටික වෙලාවක් යනකොට වෙනස් පැත්තකට යන්න පුළුවන්.
මූලික අරමුණ සියදිවි හානි වැළැක්වීම වුණාට ඕනම කෙනෙකුට ඕනම ප්‍රශ්නයක් ඕනම ගැටලුවක් ගැන කතා කරන්න අපිත් එක්ක යොමු වෙන්න පුළුවන්.
ජාතික මෙහෙවර සතියේ දිනවල උදෑසන 11ට පවුල් 557ක් පමණ ජීවත් වන ගම්මානයක්. තිබහට බොන්න වතුර නෑ. තිබුණත් ඒ වතුර පිරිසිදු නෑ. කිලෝමීටර ගණනක් දුර ගෙවාගෙන යනවා පිරිසිදු ජලය සොයාගෙන. ජීවිතය දුෂ්කර වෙලා. අනුරාධපුර මධ්‍යම නුවරගම් පළාතේ පරසන් ගස්වැව ජනතාවගේ දුක නිවාලමින් ජල පෙරණියකට ගම්මැද්දින් මුල්ගල තැබූ වගයි.
First in your heart, Sri Lanka's #1, the Sirasa Media Network.
Welcome back to Face to Face. We're in conversation with Dr. Ajantha Perera. Dr. Ajantha, now we were talking about the need for transparency, and this is where we have gone wrong over decades, where our governments, those in power, those who rule us, have gone and spent our money and our children's money and our grandchildren's money on projects which don't work. We have airports in the middle of the jungle. The fact that nobody is going to land there, because why would you? You want to land near a city. That didn't seem to matter. Even when people pointed it out at the time, before the construction. Why would you want an airport out there? Then we have that monstrous tower in the heart of Colombo. It looks very nice, but did we need it? In my opinion, not really. And the cost of these things is enormous, much more than the cost of building those same structures in another country, because we have the international standards. And so many global organizations have pointed this out, saying this is costing far too much. So this is the lack of transparency, the lack of public debate. We never debated where our second international airport should be.
Yep.
There was general agreement that yes, we needed a second airport because of weather considerations, but where should it be? Should it be in Jaffna, Batiklo, Hambantota, in Kurunagala, where? So it just seemed to fly on the whims of the president at the time, who is not an aviation expert. I mean, neither is our current president, but we don't see our current president saying we're going to build another airport somewhere else.
Exactly.
So these are the issues. How do we get more involved?
I think the key word is public participation. I hope that President Anura Kumara would not oppose protests. I know in the past it has been a very difficult time for people who were of a different mindset, who wanted to bring out their opinions. It was a bit difficult. But I really want to say this time is that, public participation in every project is very important. Environmental impact assessment is a key tool in development. But the previous governments have always discarded environmental impact assessments. The majority of the projects were done without consulting the public opinion. They never asked the public whether it's good, bad or ugly. They never did that. So basically public participation must come. Without public participation, if you have a project, you end up with a disaster. And environmental impact assessments always have the public participation component in it, and this is very, very important for the present government.
Now the environmental impact assessment, EIA, it's not just about the environment, it gives massive details about the whole project, the objective of it, the cost, everything is in there, isn't it?
Exactly.
So and it's the law. It needs to be published.
Exactly.
Needs to be out in the open for the public to examine it.
Exactly.
And to debate it. But
well, it's basically when you say environmental impact assessment, you're looking at the environment on one side. Then you are also looking at the social environment. You're looking at the natural environment, the physical, the biological environment, but you're also looking at the social environment. Then you also look at the cost benefit, which is the economics of it. So in all these things, there should be public participation. Then you also have a review process where you actually go on to see whether this is viable, or could we not have it in another place? Could we not go through a different process? So environment impact assessment is something actually which for this particular work, I was trained in the USA. I was the very first batch that was sent to the University of Tennessee for training, and during that time by USAID, NAREP. So basically over the last few years this has got discarded. It was thrown away. It was considered as a waste of time. I remember the ministers decided, I will take care of the EIA aspect. How can a minister take care of it when it's a teamwork? It was a ridiculous affair. So I hope, since the Prime Minister Harin is also there, I hope that, coming from an academic area, that she would bring back this EIA aspect, because EIA is very, very important. Then comes one of the most important thing again is that public participation in decision making. Whether it be in the agricultural sector, whether it's be in the fishery sector, whether it be in the infrastructure sector, make sure that you take the public participation. Let the public have their say. Why do you wait until the people take a placard and get on the street? You could easily do that beforehand. So make sure that the public have ample space for them to make, raise their opinion.
Now, Dr. Ajantha, we have had many presidents in the past who took an attitude which I can describe as a know-it-all attitude.
Yeah.
I know best.
Yep.
So this is what the country is going to do. Despite the fact that, if you look at that person's academic qualifications, professional qualifications, they're nowhere. You had ministers who hadn't passed their O-levels, but were taking decisions on policy, major policies. So this was the norm. So little wonder that we had projects which made no sense whatsoever.
Yep.
And of course, a lot of corruption was there in those projects. But, you can understand some level of corruption if the project itself is beneficial. But we had so many projects which were just, something out of a Looney Tunes cartoon, basically. So hopefully we have a president now who is willing to listen.
Yeah, and also I think at the same time, I firmly believe in websites. Every ministry must have the operational website. And the website must speak about the projects that they are doing. How much money they have spent. How much money is allocated per project. What are the requirements? These are no secrets. It's our money. They're spending our money. The ministries are spending our money and doing what they like to do. That won't get done.
But those need to be updated as well, Dr. Ajantha,
Yes.
because you have a project,
Yes.
let's say to build a bridge,
Yes.
and it does say date of commencement, projected date of completion, maybe 2 years.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
5 years later, the bridge is still half built.
Yeah.
So we need to know what happened, what's the block.
I think there I would like to say this. I saw the President Andhra Kumara making a statement, I can't remember where he said this, was about when he said that when you are a member of the parliament, nobody can accuse you or take you to courts. I don't know whether I'm saying it wrong right now, but I have a feeling that I heard it and I was really alarmed when I heard that. Because you see, just because you are a member of the parliament does not mean that you are immune. You need to be held responsible for whatever the actions that you take. Because the member of the parliament, if that happens to be a minister running a whole ministry with a full budget, and if he cannot be taken to task when he makes a mistake, then what are we creating is a monster who cannot be touched for 5 years. We do not want that. And I think if the President Andhra Kumara can humble himself, even he himself can say, if I have done something wrong, people can criticize me. Why shouldn't it be? Because that's what humbleness is about, and that's what progress is about. We need to be transparent. President is elected by the people for the people. We always need to remember this. The legislature, the parliament is elected by the people for the people, not for their own kind. And so they need to hold that responsibility. I firmly believe every ministry should be transparent in what they are doing. People should be able to visit their website and know what are the projects that they are involved in, who is funding them, who is involved in it, how much of salary are they getting. Now even the members of the parliament, I heard that they are going to get car permits, 225 car permits, and I'm not being jealous because I already have a car from a car permit because my husband happens to be from the university sector and I was also in the university sector. So we naturally get a car permit. But my question is that a priority right now?
Well, it's a matter of timing, isn't it?
Yeah.
A car permit 10 years ago,
Yes.
when the country had the funds, the government wasn't bankrupt, was understandable,
Yes.
perhaps. Although sometimes it was doled out in an unfair manner. But a car permit now is simply not understandable at all.
No. And then comes, I saw the rent for their house is only 2,000 rupees. And then I look at the families who are spending 25,000 rupees with the greatest difficulty, you know, on housing with children. And here are the members of the parliament are only spending 2,000 rupees for their house. I mean, this needs to be amended. Come on, this is a socialist government. A socialist government is supposed to be looking at the welfare of everyone on an equal basis. You cannot call somebody a member of the parliament and give that person all the, you know, advantages that they like. You can't do that. A socialist government should make sure that it's equally spread. So therefore, I would urge the president that he needs to increase the rent. Then every sitting they get 2,500 rupees. Now I do not know whether 2,500 is per sitting or is it per hour. So amount of time, money that would be spent on this would be, you know, huge. Then they get VIP treatment. Why VIP? I have a doctorate. I got my doctorate the same way that the people in the parliament have got. And if I can walk down that normal pathway without VIP treatment, why should a member of the parliament have a VIP treatment? What's the difference between the two of us? I mean, so be very smart in your way of thinking, you know. Socialist governments are supposed to be acting in a different way to others. And that's what they were highlighting on. And so I think now the time has come for the president. With a lot of love, I'm telling him, he knows me well, you know, I'm telling him, bring those changes. Don't say constitutional amendments has to come and then we'll look at all these things. I mean, we know how long it will take for the constitution to be amended, and will the others allow it to be amended?
Well, the ruling party does have 2/3, so it shouldn't be a problem to amend it.
But it does take a while.
It does.
Because you need to read every statement, you need to read every line, you need to ensure that the law is correct, you know, the legal people would accept it. It takes a while. So what I believe is the president has ample opportunity right now to focus on a country that he portrayed on the platform at the time of the election. Whatever you have said, do it. That's all I'm saying. Whatever you promise the people, do it now. And don't say tomorrow, day after, or in another month, or in another year. Because by that time, people would get sick and tired. So he's smart. He's working hard, and I'm happy about that. And I know the Prime Minister Harini, you know, she's working hard. So they have a good chance. Do it now. Don't wait. Don't say tomorrow and day after, because tomorrow sometimes never comes.
Now, how long does this government have before the people sort of give a verdict on their performance? And this is very subjective, because some people in 6 months' time would say they're doing well, others would say it's not enough. But there is a certain point at which Sri Lankans as a whole turn against a government if it's not doing well. And then, of course, at the next election, out it goes and another party is brought in. In this instance, the people, voters, have given a massive mandate. But once again, we have to remember that in the previous election, it was only 3%. So in the same way, our people, I wouldn't call them fickle, but they do have a certain limit on their patience.
Yeah, I think this is why I'm saying the president needs to be very wise in his decision making. He has a government, or rather he has a team who are not so mature in politics. And I know as an academician, we are very slow and very fearful. Most of the academics are very fearful, and I'm not just saying it. I've seen that at the university council meetings, where the decisions are made very slow, and then they are going here and there. So we are not the best decision makers. Academics are not the best decision makers. And so the president, being a typical politician, he's been in power now, he's been around for 24 years. So, he has experience. He should understand. Families in this country want to eat 3 meals a day. They want to make sure that their children are having the best of education. They want to make sure that nobody is going to play around with the drugs that are brought into the country or the medicine. People want to have good health. Then we want to have good infrastructure. We want to have also good investors coming into Sri Lanka. One of the key things that would stop any investor from coming into Sri Lanka is if they see protests. The moment they see a protest with placards, they will not come, because they will think the government has failed. So the president needs to understand an IT industry. IT industry is a very easy industry to develop. Plenty of young youth, without jobs. Teach them, train them in IT. I mean, that's a fantastic opportunity. Digitalize. Let people be able to see whatever the mistake we are making. I mean, I love being transparent. I like people to read me like a book, and that probably is why I get a lot of criticisms from everywhere, because I feel that people know everything about me. But that's the best way to move forwards. So I think now President Andrew Kumara has a huge task with people like Mr. Vijitha Hera to take this country forwards and do not lose your vision. And whatever the time they need my help in environmental work or in anything, without any payment, he knows that as well. I won't be asking you for money. But we are there to help you. At the time of elections, yes, we say nasty things to each other. Yes, we disagree with each other. But once the election period is over, we are back to the norm, because we are all Sri Lankans. Now,
Dr. Ajantha, we are almost out of time, but I just want to make one point with you. My opinion is people aren't scared of protests. Investors aren't scared of protests. It is seeing 1,000 policemen in riot gear.
Right.
Yes, because you yourself were at Liberty Plaza, I think, the Liberty Circle roundabout, I think every week for how many years?
For a long time,
yes.
we were.
And people weren't afraid to see Dr. Ajantha at the roundabout with your candles and your placards.
Come and talk to us.
Yes, but the sight of 500 to 1,000 policemen in riot gear with all those ugly-looking water cannon
so the next time
things,
when we are protesting, if they put the policemen again by the present government, I'm going to teach them on environment. I'm going to hold a mic and I'm going to teach them on environment, because it should be something useful. What a waste when the policemen have to come and stand there. So I think this is a very good point that you raised. I think our military, our defense forces also, now that we don't have a war, and we are not hoping for a war either, and so I think it's good time that we take care of them. They've done a great job for us. They've looked after us. And now I think we need to develop them academically. We need to make sure that they have a good future too. And say thank you to them for what they have done. It's very, very important.
Dr. Ajantha Perera, it's been a pleasure having you back once again. And I hope you'll be back again in a few weeks or a few months' time.
Thank you so much.
At which point we can have a bit of an audit on the government's progress, a little report card perhaps, to point out what's good, what's bad, what needs to be improved,
Whether
and
it's
so
a
on.
C grade, B grade, hopefully an A grade.
So thank you very much, Dr. Ajantha, and thank you very much to you at home for watching. Don't go away because the news is coming up next. Have a good evening.